New Year's. It has been a quiet week in Lake Wobegon, a warm, dry winter with no snow for a month, just brown grass and some dead snow, and the Lake Wobegon Weather Bureau, which meets at the Sidetrack Tap, has never seen one like it. They're getting fed up with it. They are storytellers, and it's tiresome to have a phenomenon so unusual it doesn't remind you of one that was similar but more so. A blizzard would make you think of some good blizzards of the past, and you can improve on them. But this January drought is only a novelty. It defeats memory. It brings conversation to an end. We wish it would snow. The ice fishermen wish it were colder, but they put their fish houses out on the lake anyway. They couldn't wait any longer. Mr. Burge asked Elmer, "You think the ice is thick enough?" Elmer said, "Mr. Burge, ice doesn't freeze from the top, it freezes from the bottom. So the temperature of the air doesn't have much bearing on it. Look, Swanny's got his out, and his weighs more than yours and mine both." Swanee has the first 2-room fish house on the lake, 20 feet long, a mansion. He hauled his out on Tuesday, and Wednesday night there were 40 houses out there, a little city of men who know that this is the alternative to divorce. In the dead of winter, a home gets smaller and smaller, and a man's natural tendencies become more pronounced. Some days she looks at you and wonders if it was worth $15 for the license. One day she finds you surrounded by newspaper and empty beer bottles and some dirty plates and bits of spillage, and she shrieks in horror. You look down and see your pants are gone. You're dressed in a bearskin skirt, holding a hunk of wood, and dangling from your mouth is the tail of a wounded rodent you're eating for dinner. The lovely woman shrinks away in disgust, and you open your mouth and growl. At this point in the marriage, discussion is no good. You need a place to hunker, and that's your fish house. A little plywood room with a stove, a sleeping bench, table and chairs, and a floor with 2 holes in it to fish through the ice. The Boosters Club motto for 1987 is "Onward, ever higher, our community inspire." But so far this year doesn't look any different from last, except that Darlene is gone from the chatterbox. She hung up her white waitress dress and gave the counter one last swipe with a wet rag and drove to a new life in Minneapolis. Her mother said, "You couldn't spend New Year's Eve with your own family? Honey, after all we've done for you, we were counting on it. Couldn't you just come and be with us for an hour? Is that too much to ask? 1 hour? A half hour?" But Darlene said, "Mother, you always said that a girl has to learn how to say no. I'm trying to learn. No." Senator Kay Thorvaldsen sat and drank 8 cups of coffee Wednesday afternoon, flirted with Darlene, and made remarks about maybe going to Minneapolis with her. He is reading a box full of novels by Ramona Jean Jensen, a writer of whose oeuvre you might remark, "I wouldn't read that trash if I was on a desert island with it." And then you pluck from the paperback rack, and Ralph's a thick novel with a picture of a bosomy Viking temptress in a diaphanous gown struggling with a heavyweight wrapped in animal skins. And you read a few paragraphs, and suddenly your legs are stiff. You're on page 43, your frozen steaks are thawing, and your ice cream is melting, but you sit down on the ledge inside Ralph's big front window to learn how Ingrid will ever escape from Stefan and read a passage about her milky white blank, her young and tender blank, her small pert blank, her blank. Good Lord! You had no idea people sold this in a grocery store. Then a shadow falls on the page and you look up and there's Ralph. "Want me to put your meat back in the cooler?" he says. Senator Kay looked at his old waitress and thought how much he'd miss her. Her skin was milky white, her hands as she stuffed napkins in the holder, the special way she filled his coffee cup. "How about that woman in Maine? Aren't you still writing to her?" Darlene said. "Oh, well, yes, but she can't leave her son. He's sick, some kind of sleeping sickness, and she's been seeing another man. He's younger, 71. That's fine. I don't want to get in her way if she cares for someone else. I don't want to make a fool of myself. It's up to her. Maybe she's too polite to tell me, so I'll just have to remove myself from consideration. He'll leave soon for his little condo in Florida. Maybe you'd like to go to Florida," he said to Darlene. "It's pretty down there. A lot of old people, but we wouldn't need to bother with them." The Inkfists bought their tickets to Florida 2 months ago, Pastor Dave and Judy, at least that's what she said. They've missed the annual ministers' retreat 3 years in a row because the civilian leadership at church can't see why their minister and his wife should cavort in the tropics in January. She can see about 3 reasons, but she can't tell the board because it's more than they want to know about a minister. It's hard work to stand up and say what people don't really believe but want to think they do. And it's tough when a man of faith suffers from depression in a town where nice people are expected to be upbeat. For a few days on Captiva Island at the Chateau Suzanne, around the blue kidney bean-shaped pool, cool aquamarine in a forest of deep green and fabulous birds of brilliant plumage, some pale, plump Lutherans will sit in the sun like lumps of bread dough and say forbidden things. Oh, the luxury of truth when you come from a town of storytellers. The luxury of sitting in sunlight, clasping a gin and tonic, wearing 2 articles of clothing that allow the world to reasonably assume you are a woman, lighting up one of your 10 annual cigarettes, and saying openly to other ministers' wives, "It has been hard this year."